computer. Hey, the gang's all here.
I'm here.
I'm here.
That was Bob.
I'm here.
That's right.
But you're really low.
Is this any higher?
That's higher.
Uh,
Too.
yeah, most are accepting the non-video, just the audio only. That's
I
okay.
just saw KC30MP and WB5URY pop in.
Yeah, we're here.
All right.
Gary.
Dave.
It looks like most of them are logging in with audio only. They won't be able to see your
Beautiful face.
your slideshow.
Oh, you guys have to come in with video. There we go. There's one.
And you
I'm
That's
logged
it.
in audio
That's the
only, and I
video.
can see you guys.
Oh, you can see us?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I just don't have a camera on this computer.
Oh, then you don't have to, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, we don't we don't have a webcam, but we can still see everything and hear everything
Okay.
and talk.
Do I fill the screen?
At times, yeah, it's kind of switching back and forth.
So Zoom, what it does is it will by default auto switch to who's talking, but the user can click on a particular person and it will lock it on that screen.
Oh, okay.
How
Because
do I
I'm going to be
make my
showing some
microphone?
slides here too.
click on speaker view, everybody, and then select in the top of it, I think the 2 view option. Hopefully,
Yeah, if you click on it, there's like an ellipsis, and you click on that, and you can click pin video, and it'll pin that video to the main screen.
Thank you. There you go.
I'm gonna
And I didn't see an option to not connect with your computer, to only connect with your phone. I'm sorry, only to connect with your computer. I didn't see an option to call in. I don't actually have a microphone on my computer.
you sound good.
Well, I'm actually logged in twice, once on my phone and once on my computer.
Now, I need to share screen with that one. Okay. I hope all that practice we did was for some good.
well, I see,
Looks good to me.
But did I disappear? Or am I in a corner somewhere?
You're in a corner now, but we can at least see the PowerPoint.
Well, you disappeared from the corner, though. This corner went away.
Oh, I see there's a
There you are.
at the bottom. I can scroll through everybody. Oh, now what did I do? I went through. Oh, there's different ways to set it up. Okay, got it. Well, we'll wait a while. I hope everybody has their ARES book that I had printed out for you all. We will be referring to that on occasion here.
Grab that.
Okay. 2 minutes. Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
I can.
Yes.
I wouldn't change it at this point, but for next time, I would up your mic level a little bit, because I'm out of headroom. I have mine the whole way up to hear you. The volume level is good, but there's no extra room to adjust.
Oh. Is that on your end a problem or is that on mine?
Well, I got mine maxed out. When
I'm
you're,
maxed out.
Okay. According to this, I'm hitting my microphone as hard as I probably can.
well, did you take it out of auto?
I couldn't find that.
It's down on the mute. To the right of it, there's a little up arrow. And that toolbar at the bottom.
Oh, now how do I get that when I'm on a shared screen though?
Oh, maybe.
I have to unshare somehow. This is all so new. Oh, there it is. Okay, you say on audio connect. Oh, it's not on the mic that I'm on. Analog microphone, high definition. Apparently, I'm in the computer.
Ah.
Okay, did I change anyway?
Oh, yeah. You
Louder.
Oh yeah, much better.
Okay, we'll stick with that one.
picked up quite a bit of bass.
Yes, you did. Sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds like God's talking to me now.
Nah, it is. That's who I am. Well, I'll give you a quick look. Can you see where I lost all the pictures now. The microphone this was in Howard Stern's studio at one time. And buddies of mine that worked at NBC, they said, do you want us to throw them away? Do you want us to throw one your way? I said, sure. So this is where it came from. Now, I know that Dan's going to get on with phone with his friends at NBC. I know where that Stern mic went. He's not hearing me, is he?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, there you are.
I had my microphone muted.
There's Mike.
Howdy.
You're outside somewhere.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. Well, it is 7:01. Let's get this on a show on the road. Let's see. I've got to go to I try to go to the slideshow and there we go. Now I got to it. Now we're on. I'm going to start with a little bit of a recap of some of what we went over last time. And we'll get into how to pass formal traffic and the proper forms to use. Two types of messages. One is formal, one's informal. And basically, as the slide says, written traffic, formal has a couple of special things. It's written down, and it's on the behalf of a served agency or a person, and a reply is expected back. Informal is just like we're talking now. Excuse me. And it's, but it's more casual, maybe verbal, maybe written. The no response or reply is expected. That's informal. But what we're going to talk about now is formal traffic. It's all written down, and it's transmitted exactly as written. Now, I'm going to have to move some of these. I don't know what I did. I have too many thumbnails sticking in my way. Okay, we'll go with this. Okay, the formal traffic is, like it says, it's exactly as written. You don't change anything. And when you receive a message from a served agency, read it. If you can't read it, call them back. And while you still have them on the microphone, on the radio, get a clarification on anything you can't read. And that's very important, because if it's not right, you know, I don't think anything we do would have lives in danger. It also could. And you can't really know if it's right unless you clarify it. Also, you've got to log all formal traffic on a Form 309. And I know that somebody will find it in the book. There's an example of a 309 in the book. I have it open to another page that I'm going to be referring to, but the messages have to be documented, and it's best to write them down. It's not required, but it's the best thing to do. And you log your received and transmitted messages. And the elements of elements of formal traffic, you want to know who is requesting what and from whom. And this kind of stuff is all in the we're going to go over some of the different message forms here in a little while. But you want what you want to request the full name, title, agency, location of who is there and what it's about. Also, when they're requesting how and why and what do they need, is it a single list item? Is it a list of items? Do all that items come from the same place? Often they do not. If it's multiple sources, then you've got multiple messages. So I wish people wouldn't text me while I'm doing this, but let me see if it's somebody. Charlie is missing. He says, no one is here to get into the meeting. I guess he didn't really understand what I sent to him, but okay. Let me tell him it's online. So anyway, typical. If it's a list, do all the items come to the same place? And if they don't, then and you have to note that. And is the subject in the transfer of an item or the acquisition of that item or both? You got to know how to transport it and so forth. I'll give you some examples of that here later on. And where will it come from? It's not always from the same location of the person receiving the request. And where will it go? Well, we just covered that. And when is it needed? That time and date is applicable there. And emergency communications, it is important to say as little as possible and yet convey the meaning. You don't yammer on. And brevity and clarity, slow down. Do not editorialize. Now that's a really important one. Editorializing, I would use an example. Today, one of the news guys got on TV and he said, there are now 1,000 people who have died to this virus. And that's over exaggerating. He editorialized it in the way he expressed it. But don't editorialize, pretty much give it in a monotone fashion so that you don't add any excitement or make people think it's worse than it is. Listen, use plain language. And this we went over last 2 weeks ago. Don't use, like our cue signals and, different, I don't know, what do you call it, slang terms and all that. Use plain language. And the important thing also is because of who you're talking to, use a standard ITU phonetics and don't make up cutesy words and that sort of thing for your words that you're trying to get them through. Numbers, they are just numbers. And use the appropriate message form. If you're going between a served agency, they want you to use their message forms. Red Cross has theirs. Dauphin County has theirs, and they are all different. You have to learn how to use them. Is it going to another agency and perhaps, use an amateur radio format? Okay, what that means, the amateur radio format is the radiogram. I don't know if that comes through, but I don't have my camera up on my screen. But the radiogram is a standard ARRL form. And if it's
40 in the little book, Terry.
You may want to use an amateur radio format like the radiogram too. Does someone have a question or a comment?
The radiogram is on page 40 of the little book.
Yes,
Got it.
page 40. Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
And where was it? We're at here. Okay. The radiogram is unique in itself, and it's to amateur radio, and it's got 100 years of practice in getting it just right. So it's a perfect message form. And that way you don't have to keep translating between message forms. if it's not appropriate, but you can get the message through. Because if you were to send it on the 213 message form that we use on county stuff, and it gets into another person's hands, chances are they're not going to know what to do with that form. And if you're sending it on a phone or by phone, now this means like microphones and single sideband AM, whatever, you don't read it, you send it. And that means you read it without expression, no expression in your voice, and sending, make it more, less important than articulation. And what that means, pronounce the words properly, articulate them, be very careful, and don't rush through any of the terms or any of the words. And the message should get through very clearly that way. And the aim is to not copy, or it's copy, not comprehension. Therefore, you read one word or group at a time. Each one is carefully articulated at a slow speed, slow enough to be written comfortably. And you'll see that when you look at page 40 on that form. It's that Charlie's mic isn't muted, so he's coming through everything. Hi, Charlie.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Anyway, on page 40, you'll see that they're spaced, and we'll get to that. And that allows you to space them in the right way. Difficult or unusual words should be spelled out phonetically, and that's really important. Because if we're passing terms of medical nature or unusual names or things like that, you can't really spell them, but you have to do it phonetically so you can get the right spelling. And use the proper phonetic alphabet and so forth. And a wise tip in spelling out a word, first pronounce the word followed by the words I spell. And spell out the word phonetically. For example, ITU, I spell. India, Tango, uniform, ITU. So then, let me quiet this one too. So then we'll have to go on here to the next slide for the next of it. Okay, now 5 basic forms. The radiogram form, which I just talked about, the ICS 213 message form, that's what the county uses. The ARC is a Red Cross form, and there's a Red Cross message form and a Red Cross disaster welfare inquiry. And the MHA, we're not going to get into because it's a Maine Hospital Association assessment form. We have in Pennsylvania the HERES, and I haven't been able to find someone who can tell me where those radios are yet. We installed them probably 15 years ago or more in all of the hospitals. And if any of you are around during that time and know where they are, let me know, because we need to find them and get access to them, check them, and put them back together. Okay, the ARRL radiogram. Most commonly used in amateur radio handling, as I had said earlier. It's, and they're not kidding, it's the most difficult to understand and most complex. Must be used with formal traffic. It's introduced into the national traffic system. And the national traffic system, I'll let you hear some of that. Hopefully I tried to do this in a test, and we'll see if it comes through. I'll let you hear what some national traffic sounds like. I guess I have to go to the app a little differently. Okay, I'll back it up. Hopefully this comes through this mic.
NI2W, WC3K ready. NI2W, or net control, can I go ahead? Roger, that's yours. Roger. Number 342, routing. Whiskey X-ray 1 Tango. The check is amended. It's 25, amended to 24. Trumbull, I spell Tango, Romeo, Uniform, Mike, Bravo, Uniform, Lima, Lima, Charlie Tango. Mark 23. To your honorable self. Great. Greetings. We are well. Schedule follows. Mixed group 7. Dot, I spelled Delta Oscar Tango 145. Figures 2000. Mixed group 3.665. Figures 2005. Figure 60. Initial Mike. Dash, I spelled DASH. Mixed group Charlie Hotel 1. Figures 2010. Initials Mike Oscar November. Initials Tango Uniform Echo Sierra. Initials Whiskey Echo Delta. Initials Foxtrot Romeo India. 4, I spelled Oscar Romeo. Echo Link. Figures 44170. Anytime. Figures 73. Break. Emily. And this is the way it was given to me. Echo Mike India Lima Echo India Golf Hotel. Amateur call November 1 Delta India Delta. And no more.
Okay. Now, a lot of that probably didn't make sense. We're going to make sense of that now. And the next time you hear it, you'll actually understand what it was about. Okay, it sounds a little bit strange to you if you have never heard it before. It's let's see, where are we at here? The amateur, okay, usually made out by the attending amateur radio operator from a message request from a served agency. That's common. These are the 213s. Formal traffic on a 213 is common when we're training for disasters or we have disasters. You're going to use the 213s to get from the Incident Command Center, ICS. That's what that means. And it's very straightforward, and it looks like something that you can't mess up. It's not as complicated as what you just heard there. And it's made out by the originator of the message. They actually write it down. And what I've found in the past is they don't really have good handwriting most of the times. And the amateur, or the American Red Cross message form, again, is very straightforward, made out by the originator of the message. And that's where it comes in, where you always say, let's go over this before you move on, so that you're sure that you have the message right, because these are handwritten and they're handed to us to give on. And the disaster inquiry, again, it's a very straightforward one, and it's made out by a Red Cross client and a Red Cross disaster workers, back and forth between them. It's things they need to get around. We're going to skip past the main stuff and go right to the ARRL radiogram. Okay, the preamble are the message details and instructions. And if you look at page 40, the preamble is at the very top. And then the next is the addressee, who it's going to. It's the next block. The name, address, phone number of the recipient. The text is the message itself and the signature. And other information is at the bottom. And the administrative is the message tracking information. And that's all on that form. Let's go and look for it. Okay, there's the form. And at the top is the I'm going to move that. I have a screen in the way here. Okay, the preamble at the top. the number of the message, and so forth. Everything you can see there is all right there on that form. And I'd keep the book open as we go through these to find them. And the addressee is the next part. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not.
Yes,
So
we
I'm putting
can.
the cursor over. You can see it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yes.
So then there's that and the text. And you notice these are in groups of 5, and 1 word goes on each line. That's how you can do a quick word count when you look down over it. So, okay, did someone say something? Okay. And your signature at the bottom, who it's received, the date, time, and who it was sent to, and the date and time. And the rest, that's called the administrative area right there. Okay, the message number, it's necessary to have it. It can be any number origination the station chooses. And like it says, beginning of the year, you start with number 1 usually. And once a message is numbered, that number remains with that message until it's delivered. And in this case, they put number 1 on it. And if you keep a record of all your messages that you send, and you must do that if you're transferring messages like the one we just heard, you're going to be needing to keep those. And they do sell them in a nice little booklet form that you can get from ARRL. Keep a logbook of them. And the next one is determines where the message or under what order it'll be handled. So we're going to see, like, okay, let's say come down here. R for routine. If you're doing this on CW, you're using just R. Now these all get a priority like that. Now, if it's a routine message, most of them we're going to send a routine, and they're handled last if there's another one that'll bump it from that. A welfare message is the next one up. And these are usually during a disaster. You're going to get a message inquiring about the health, welfare of an individual in a disaster area, and report the health, or to report the health of the welfare back to an individual or someone else. That's a routine, but it's handled before the routine traffic. Priority, a P on CW. These messages have a specific limit of time, and they're also called for official messages. They're not covered in emergency category, and this traffic will be handled before the welfare or routine. That's priority traffic. And if you've heard any of our nets, anything with emergency or priority traffic can break in at any time. That's why it's stuff that has a time limit on it. And emergency is spelled out emergency on CW for those of you who may or may not do that. Any message having life and death urgency to any person or group or persons, which is transmitted by the amateur radio in absence of regular communication facilities. And when in doubt, do not use this, but traffic will be handled first immediately. An example of this: suppose you're, in an area where you can, you need to get some messages through, and you don't have the ability to get it through any other way but on ham radio, and it's an emergency life or death situation. That's when you use that. Okay, these are handling instructions. This tells you how they need to be handled. Ajax A, and there's a number, collect the data, the landline delivery authorization by the addressee in so many miles. If there's no number, now I just lost my screen. Head's back. Anyway, right here, if it's no number, this is a number. The HX followed by number. A is followed by number. B, this is, you can put HX A, B, C, D, E, F, and G in that form. And these tell you what it is. And I see we're running low in time. I got a warning from Zoom. They give us 30 minutes on this thing. And anyways, report the time and date of the originating station, C, so forth. And these, you can look over them in your leisure. They're in your book to see how you utilize them, but that's where that goes. Station of origin, If you originated it, it's your call sign. If it's someone else, it'll be theirs. That's what goes in that one. And so far we have 1 routine, HXG, and then we have K4IWW. Now the check. This is a number of words in the text, only the text, and the words in the addressee of the signature not counted. Groups of figures, letters, combinations of figures and letters, and an X are also counted as words, and the X we'll get to. This method is where amateurs make sure that the text was received without error. Both sender and receiver should end up with the same word count, and that's a check. Place of origin, field is for city, state, and the stations of the originating station or the person in the signature. In most cases, will be the same thing. And time field, and that's in Zulu time, or you have to label it as Eastern Standard Time. Whatever it works, whatever you're using, you can use either. I like to use UTC because it's valued everywhere. It's the same everywhere. And the date, you got to have the date. The year is not used. We use a month and day. The year is not used. If the message is over a year old, it should have been sent to the junk pile. Telephone number, add to the addressee. The name, you want to have the name, the address, city, state, zip, and a phone number. And that way it can be delivered. Very often these are delivered by phone. I've had them delivered to me by phone. And there's your radiogram text. And like I said, every one is a word. And in this case, in the example, it says arrive 7 p.m. December 24 X. X is a break in the sentence. It's used to be in the old telegraphy days, it meant stop. Same thing here. Looking forward to seeing you, X, next line, love. And that counts 12. And if you add the signature and it's the name of the person sending a message, it may be the name or the call sign of the originating station. However, it is usually the name of a third party for whom the originating station is generated, because we're often doing these on behalf of someone else. It's wise in an emergency communications to also include the title of the person sending a message. Now, this is optional, but it's good to fill it in. This is for handling station to write down to whom they received, from whom they received it, and it's a little bookkeeping thing to do. So it's a good idea to take care of that. And the sent, same thing. It's optional, but it's a good idea to fill that in. It's the only field, it's for bookkeeping and handling. Here it is all set up, and all that information is put in. You can see at the top, message number 1, routine, HXG, the call sign, the word check, and place of origin, and the time that it was filed, and also the address, and you can see how it's spelled out in 5 of things. You can look at that and say right away, there's 2 lines of 5 and 2, there's 12. And the received down below, Betty M. Public. Okay, that's a cool name. So there's your finished radiogram. Anybody have anything to say or questions at this point? Okay, we'll move on.
I got a quick question.
Okay.
You said we have to save these. What's the reason for saving them?
So that it's for your records mostly. And then after a year, pretty much they're done. So you can, but you also want to be able to look back and say, okay, what was the number of my last message? That's another reason to save it too. All right.
Okay, but I mean, we're not like saving them for a year or a month or.
No, it's just for your own records.
Gotcha.
A lot of people just keep a box handy and toss them in or something. Now, the ICS 213 is the one that we use for county and government agencies. This falls under RACES more so. Header, message, and reply. Real simple. And they must be filled in appropriately. Do not accept the message if it's partially filled in. One exception would be is the name of the person the message being sent to. And the ICS position is more important than the name of the person that's doing it. And there it is. It's just a simple form. And you have at the top, you have the incident name. It could be Susquehanna River Flood 2020. And what's that?
Sorry. Hey, I'm going to switch off the laptop to my phone, so if anything funny happens, that's all it is.
Okay. So anyway, then there's a date and time and to whom it is and their position in the incident command system and from whomever, and the message. And the same thing comes back as a reply. So the reply is at the bottom. And that's your 213 message forms. I don't know that these are in here. They're available online. You can do a search for ICS 213 forms. It's a good thing to have them handy, because when you go into some of these things, like if we do a TMI drill or something, other drills, they don't have them for us. We have to make sure we have them. So get a few and keep them on hand. Here's one with the header filled out. And you can see right through it, name of the incident, date and time, and all that is putting in. It's everything that I just said. Plain language, common terms. And we did have one, I was working with Dauphin County a number of years ago. And we were using some terms they didn't know. It turns out it meant something totally different to them.
7-6.
So there you go. We're going to reply to the message again. And we hear you, Dave.
Here, I'm going to read your meter.
Okay, this is a Red Cross form.
So that tells you when to come over here, push that button, and then it goes to memo.
Dave, you're not muted. He don't care. The Red Cross, Red Cross form, real simple. There is less lines in this than anything else. We don't do a whole lot with the Red Cross anymore because they were not nice to us. They wanted things that we couldn't do. So, but that's a long story for another day. And formal traffic. This is pretty much coming up on a closure of this. The American Red Cross form is perhaps the simplest of all forms. All the blocks will be filled in by the originator. All blocks must be filled in by the originator. And a reply, if required, will be done on another message form, and we will be able to read it and send it, and that's all we do. And that's all we do to them. And there it is again with red letters in where it's, we fill it in. This is the other form that they often have. Again, there are times we do work with the Red Cross, but we're trying to mend that bridge right now. And this one has 3 parts: client information, family contact information, and client release to the contact family. It is filled out by a Red Cross client and Red Cross workers. And by agreement between the ARRL and the Red Cross, it may be introduced into the national traffic system in its original format. That's special because typically it's the ARRL format that we use. And that's a good look at it. It's the information release form. That's if you need to release information about certain people or incidents, this is a form they use. And there's the things that go on it: pre-disaster address and so forth. And the family contact information, because this is personal information that they need to get across. That's what it's all about. And a client release. They have to sign it to release this to be sent. And the rest of these are, where I got this is from the Maine state of Maine. I couldn't find any. We'll just go through this. This is quick. This is their state of Maine assessment forms, which we don't have these kind of things here in Pennsylvania. So we'll just skip through that one. And like any other job, it's never done till the paperwork is done. And that means you always got to do your paperwork and sign it and hand it where it needs to be. And that's the message forms. Okay, I'll open it up for anybody. They in this one, they included composing messages and so forth. If we'd be in person, we'd do that, but we're not going to do that. Anybody have any questions or comments? Everybody's silent. Does that mean my mic doesn't work?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay, good.
Hey, Terry, Bob, K380.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question. Is it possible to get a copy of these in a PDF format that we can make our own to practice with?
Yeah. If you go to the ARRL website and Google for the radiogram, you can find them there. And that's you can print them out. And when you get into real traffic handling, they like to sell things and charge a lot for the shipping, but they have these forms available. You can get them from them too if you want them fancy, but they do have them ready for you at ARRL. You can just look for them. Anybody else? All right. Well, I'm glad you all made it here for this. One other
I
thing.
have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What form should we practice?
I would practice this radiogram form.
Okay.
And also look on the ARRL. They have a list of the traffic nets. And for those who have HF, that one I played for you was done on, that's on, I think it's 3810, maybe something like that. I'm not sure exactly where that was, but it's an NTS traffic net. Look for those and listen to them, and then try to copy them down on, and see if you can handle that. It takes a little practice before you get started and want to do it. I'd be listening to a lot of those nets, NTS nets. Find them on ARRL's site. All right.
Are any of those nets available on the web?
Say that again.
Are any of those nets available on the web? Are they streamed?
Yeah, on the ARRL website, they'll list them all.
I mean, are they actually streaming them so that you could tune in for the people who don't have HF?
I don't know.
Try Web to SDR.
SDR. That's a good way
Sorry,
to get it.
Web SDR, and just go to websdr.org and follow those frequencies, 3810.
Oh, okay. So it's websdr.org.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'll bring it
Okay.
up real quick.
Okay. While you're checking that, anybody else?
There was a little recording light on the screen. Are you recording this, and will that be available?
Yeah, I set it up to automatically record because I knew that I would forget. So it should be recording. And I'll know when I sign off, because if it if I did it right, it'll prompt me to ask me where to save it to.
Okay.
Yeah. Was there another question?
Now, I'm on WebSDR now. It is websdr.org.
Okay.
And down there you can pick the different SDR receivers. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty easy. It's pretty cool to use.
Okay, and then from that you can hear everything that goes on. You tune it to the frequency you want, right?
Correct. There's multiple SDR receivers throughout the world. You might pick one in a certain area of the world you want to listen to, and then whatever frequencies he is retransmitting.
Okay.
It may only be retransmitting HF or VHF, whatever. But it's pretty easy to use.
Okay. One thing I need to pass on to everybody before we run out of time. If you signed up through ARES Connect, you have to go on and indicate that you were here, that you were present for this session of training. Last time we had a class, I got a message when I got home, and it said, "I see only 3 people came to your meeting." And I said, "No," and I took a picture of the sign-in sheet. And he said, "Oh, well, they didn't get credit for it because they never went back to ARES Connect and said that they were here." So you got to do that, and that helps me as well. Anybody else? Anything?
Well, a quick comment. Went pretty well, I thought. And there might be a few things we can improve on, but I think it's going to work for you.
Okay, good. I have to find a. We found out in the beginning that my camera lens was very dirty, so it looks better now than it did when we started, believe me. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and joining us in our inaugural voyage of this thing.
Hey, on Aries Connect, how do we show that we were here?
Bob,
I'm trying this.
K3RTS, can you take that? Explain how to do that?
Sure. First, you have to sign up for the event before it occurs. If you go to ARES Connect and look for the training tonight, it'll be there up until the ending time that's given for the event. And you want to sign up for it. And then after the event has occurred, a message will come out from Terry that says, "Thank you for attending. Please log your hours here." And there's a link to click. And then you go into that link and then you can fill in the amount of time that you were involved in that training event.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot more
Submit
sense. Thank you.
Great.
Welcome.
Thanks. Anything else? All right. Next one will go a lot smoother, I guarantee you. And I'll figure out where we're going from here because we will be on the net on Monday, and I'd like to try to pass a few messages so you guys can all get together and on your own and figure out how to do this and come online with us on the air. And you can, if you don't have the ability to hear it, find a neighbor that has a radio and go visit them. That's the best way I can put it. Okay, thanks a lot. I'm going to end this if I can figure out how. Oh, there it is. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Terry.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming.
All right. Good night.
Night.
Thanks, Terry. Everything seemed to work good on this end.
Thanks and good job.
Thanks. Yeah.